The British Museum Ghost Station is one of London's most chilling and intriguing ghost stations, a place where history, myth and mystery blend into legend. Opened in 1900 as part of the Central Line, the station was located directly beneath the British Museum itself, offering convenient access for visitors eager to see the world's most famous collection of antiquities. For more than 3 decades, it served passengers faithfully, but by 1933 it was permanently closed. The official reason was practical. The opening of the expanded Tottenham Court Road station nearby made the British Museum stop redundant, and operating 2 stations so close together was costly and unnecessary. Yet, while the closure may have seemed straightforward on paper, it soon became the breeding ground for one of the London Underground's most enduring ghost stories. Not long after the station closed its doors, rumors began to swirl of strange happenings in its abandoned tunnels. The legend that caught the public's imagination most powerfully was that of an ancient Egyptian priest whose tomb had been disturbed when artifacts were brought to the British Museum above. According to the tale, his restless spirit roamed the darkened station, searching for peace but finding none. Commuters and railway staff alike whispered of unearthly chanting echoing down the passageways, of sudden icy gusts of air, and of footsteps that rang out in empty tunnels. More frightening still were the claims of sightings. A tall, shadowy figure dressed in Egyptian garb, gliding silently through the darkness before fading into the walls. These eerie stories gained traction in the 1930s, fueled by newspapers eager for sensational tales. The legend became even more notorious when, in 1935, 2 women were said to have vanished without a trace from Holborn Station, the next stop along the line. Whispers quickly tied their disappearance to the vengeful spirit of the British Museum ghost, cementing the idea that the Underground itself was haunted. To this day, the station remains sealed and inaccessible, its entrances hidden from public view. Whether one believes in the legend or not, the story has endured, passed down from one generation to the next. The British Museum Ghost Station may be closed, but its haunting tale ensures that it will never be forgotten, a reminder that beneath the city's modern streets lie tunnels where history and myth still walk side by side. Though the British Museum Station was sealed in 1933, the ghostly tales only seemed to grow stronger with time, whispered among underground staff, museum visitors, and curious Londoners who walked the streets above. By the late 1930s, the story of the ancient Egyptian priest haunting the station had become so well known that it was even dramatized in newspapers and adapted into stage and radio plays. These accounts often described the spirit as tall, robed in ceremonial linen, with a stern face illuminated by a faint golden glow, his eyes full of sorrow and fury. Those who believed in the tale insisted that he was connected to the museum's famous mummy of Princess Amun-Ra, whose legend of misfortune already fascinated Victorians. Whether linked to this artifact or not, the Egyptian ghost of the Underground became a firmly established part of London folklore. During the height of the Blitz in the early 1940s, stories of the ghost resurfaced when civilians taking shelter in neighboring stations swore they heard chanting echoing from the sealed tunnels of the old British Museum stop. In a city already shaken by nightly bombing raids, such tales spread quickly, blurring the line between fear of war and superstition. Some evacuees claimed that the wailing they heard sounded less like air raid sirens and more like mournful cries in an ancient tongue. Others reported sudden freezing drafts, even though all entrances to the closed station had long been sealed. It was said that railway engineers, sent below to inspect the tunnels, often hurried their work and refused to linger after dark. The haunting reputation grew so intense that by the 1960s and 70s, the British Museum Ghost Station had become a staple of London ghost tours, often recounted alongside stories of plague pits and haunted pubs. Even though the station no longer appears on modern maps and cannot be visited by the public, its legend has survived by word of mouth, books, and documentaries. Today, many paranormal enthusiasts and urban explorers dream of gaining access to its sealed tunnels, convinced that something of the old story still lingers. Whether one dismisses it as myth or believes it to be a genuine haunting, the British Museum Ghost Station remains one of the most mysterious and spine-tingling legends, proof that even forgotten train stops can carry the weight of centuries-old curses. As decades passed, the British Museum Ghost Station became more than just a closed stop on the Central Line. It became a cultural curiosity, a place where London's fascination with the supernatural met its rich history of ancient civilizations. By the late 20th century, guidebooks on haunted London often featured the tale, cementing its status as one of the city's great ghost stories. Some writers drew connections between the ghostly priest and the curse of the mummy of Amun-Ra, a legend claiming that misfortune befell anyone who came into contact with its coffin lid, displayed for years in the museum above. Others suggested that vibrations from the trains passing nearby might have stirred visitors' imaginations, creating the illusion of footsteps and voices in the dark. Still, there were enough first-hand accounts to keep believers convinced. Railway staff continued to whisper that odd noises echoed from the bricked-up platforms, and there were tales of workers refusing to do maintenance in the tunnels alone. Even though no official acknowledgement was ever given, the silence from London transport seemed only to fuel the mystery. In recent decades, the legend has taken on a life of its own in popular culture. Television documentaries on the haunted underground frequently referenced the British Museum station, complete with reenactments of ghostly sightings. Paranormal investigators have often lobbied for access, hoping to record evidence of chanting or spectral figures, though permission has rarely been granted. On walking tours, guides still stop near the old entrance and recount the chilling tales, sometimes lowering their voices to describe the priest's supposed wail, said to echo faintly even through the bricked-up walls. For Londoners and tourists alike, the story taps into something primal, the fear of ancient curses crossing time and the eeriness of sealed spaces beneath a modern city. While skeptics argue that the tale is nothing more than myth layered onto historical coincidence, the fact remains that the British Museum ghost station endures in memory. It stands as proof that the underground, already a marvel of engineering, also holds a hidden underworld of stories, where history, imagination, and superstition meet. Whether or not the ghost of an Egyptian priest still walks its tunnels, the legend ensures that this station, though closed for nearly a century, remains very much alive in London's collective imagination. Today, the British Museum ghost station remains sealed, hidden behind locked doors and bricked-up passages, yet its legend continues to attract attention from ghost hunters, historians, and curious Londoners. The entrances, once marked clearly on old Central Line maps, have disappeared from public view, and most commuters who pass through Tottenham Court Road or Holborn have no idea that a forgotten station lies just beneath their feet. But for those who know the story, the site has become a magnet for fascination. Paranormal enthusiasts still petition for access, hoping to catch recordings of mysterious voices or capture images of spectral figures wandering the disused platforms. While London transport rarely grants entry, the secrecy only feeds the myth. In a city where ancient history and modern life overlap at every corner, the idea that an Egyptian priest might still walk the tunnels under one of the world's greatest museums feels strangely fitting. The British Museum itself remains a place of wonder and controversy, its Egyptian collection drawing millions each year, and the ghost story of the underground below adds another layer to its aura. In popular culture, the tale continues to thrive. Writers, filmmakers, and television producers have woven the British Museum ghost station into their works, blending fact and legend to create chilling stories. It appears in books on haunted London, on late-night radio shows, and in countless online articles and forums where enthusiasts debate whether the priest's ghost is real or imagined. Some insist that the legend is simply a cautionary tale about disturbing ancient relics, a modern version of the age-old mummy's curse that captivated Victorians. Others believe it reflects Londoners' subconscious fears during times of crisis, a supernatural explanation for the unease of living through bombings, blackouts, and the claustrophobia of the underground. Regardless of the truth, the story has endured for nearly a century, surviving long after the station itself closed. That endurance alone makes it remarkable. The British Museum ghost station is not just a forgotten stop on the Central Line, it is a symbol of how history and imagination intertwine, reminding us that even in a rational modern city, the past still whispers beneath our feet. What makes the British Museum ghost station so enduring is not just its history, but the way its legend taps into London's fascination with the unseen world beneath the city. The London Underground is already a place filled with mystery, hundreds of miles of tunnels, many unused, forgotten, or sealed off, lying hidden beneath busy streets. Every Londoner knows there are places trains no longer stop, but few know why. In the case of the British Museum station, the closure was practical, yet its location directly beneath a treasure house of ancient relics gave rise to stories far richer than the truth. The rumor of a ghostly Egyptian priest was almost inevitable, and once it took hold, it became unstoppable. The idea that the dead might wander so close to where their artifacts rest feels like poetic justice, and many visitors to the museum itself have whispered about uneasy feelings in the Egyptian galleries, the sense of being watched, of shadows moving just out of sight. The underground legend only magnified this atmosphere, adding an element of danger and the supernatural. Over the decades, storytellers have embellished the tale with dramatic details. The ghost supposedly wears a golden headdress, carries a staff, and speaks in a voice that chills the air. Museum staff supposedly hear knocking in the walls at night. Workmen refuse to enter certain tunnels after dark. Whether these are exaggerations or misinterpretations hardly matters anymore. They have become part of the folklore. For Londoners, the British Museum Ghost Station sits alongside other iconic haunted places, like the Tower of London or Highgate Cemetery. The difference, however, is that the ghost station cannot be visited. Its locked doors and hidden platforms deny access, making the legend all the more tantalizing. The very act of being forbidden to see it firsthand adds power to the myth. Each bricked-up passageway and sealed staircase becomes a symbol of mystery, sparking curiosity about what might really linger behind them. In this way, the British Museum Ghost Station has achieved something remarkable. It has transformed from a disused bit of transport history into one of London's most enduring supernatural legends, where truth and myth are inseparably entwined. One of the most intriguing aspects of the British Museum Ghost Station legend is its supposed connection to the tale of the unlucky mummy, more formally known as the mummy board of Princess Amun-Ra. This artifact, a painted wooden coffin lid dating back to ancient Egypt, was brought to the British Museum in the 19th century and quickly gained a reputation for misfortune. Stories spread that anyone who handled or photographed it would suffer tragedy. Deaths, accidents, ruined careers, and strange illnesses were all attributed to its mysterious presence. While the museum dismissed such tales as superstition, the public eagerly embraced the idea of a cursed relic from the ancient world. By the time the British Museum Underground Station was sealed in 1933, the legend of the mummy's curse was well known. Linking the restless ghost of an Egyptian priest to the curse of the Amun-Ra mummy seemed only natural, especially when both were housed, one in the galleries above, the other in the tunnels below. Writers of the early 20th century often dramatized this connection. Some claimed that the ghost seen wandering the abandoned platforms was the guardian of the coffin lid, furious at its removal from its tomb. Others suggested that vibrations from passing trains disturbed the spirit, causing it to walk the tunnels in search of peace. In sensational newspaper features of the 1930s, the stories often blurred fact and fiction, reporting supposed first-hand encounters with the ghost alongside the history of the Amun-Ra board. It was even whispered that the two women who vanished from Holborn Station in 1935 were claimed by the mummy's curse, their disappearance a direct consequence of the priest's wrath, though historians point out that no official records linked the vanished women to the station. The story gained momentum because it perfectly fit the eerie narrative. The coffin lid itself still resides in the British Museum today, displayed in the Egyptian galleries for millions to see each year. Visitors gaze at it with awe, many knowing its haunted reputation, and for those familiar with the underground legend, the thought of the ghost station below adds another dimension of mystery, whether or not there is any truth to the tale. The intertwining of the Amun-Ra mummy curse with the ghost station gave the legend longevity, ensuring that it would continue to haunt London's imagination. Well into the modern era, when the Second World War broke out and London was subjected to the relentless bombing of the Blitz, the legend of the British Museum Ghost Station found new life. Many Londoners sheltered in tube stations at night, seeking safety deep below ground as bombs fell overhead. While the British Museum Station itself had already been sealed, it lay directly between Holborn and Tottenham Court Road, and its ghostly reputation bled into the experiences of those nearby. People huddled together in dark tunnels often reported strange noises, distant chanting, the sound of heavy footsteps on empty platforms, or even a low moaning that did not resemble the groan of the trains. In an atmosphere already charged with fear, every unexplained sound was magnified. And the old story of the Egyptian priest rose again, as if the terror of the war itself had summoned him back. Some accounts from the 1940s describe shelterers insisting they felt sudden drops in temperature near the sealed passageways leading toward the abandoned station. Others swore that shadows moved unnaturally along the walls, unconnected to lanterns or flashlights. Engineers working in the underground during wartime maintenance shifts were said to hurry their work when assigned near Holborn, unwilling to linger close to the bricked-off entrances. For those who already knew of the legend, it seemed plausible that the disturbance of war, the vibrations of bombs, the screams of sirens, the shaking earth might awaken a spirit already restless from centuries of displacement. In fact, the Blitz may have been the perfect setting for ghost stories to flourish. Fear, sleeplessness, and the claustrophobia of hiding underground made people more susceptible to suggestion. Yet the persistence of the British Museum ghost story during this time shows how deeply it had taken root in London's culture. Just as people clung to stories of resilience and bravery, they also whispered tales of curses and hauntings, perhaps as a way to give shape to the incomprehensible destruction around them. In the tunnels of the underground, where thousands gathered night after night, the story of the Egyptian priest became a shared shiver, part legend, part coping mechanism, and part reminder that even the deepest bunkers could not entirely shut out the past. In the years following the Second World War, London rebuilt itself, but the city's fascination with its hidden past only deepened. The legend of the British Museum ghost station did not fade with peacetime, it grew. By the 1950s and 1960s, stories of the Egyptian priest haunting the tunnels were firmly entrenched in London folklore. Ghost story anthologies and popular magazines began publishing retellings of the tale, often with embellished details. Some described the priest's spectral figure emerging not just in the station, but also on quiet nights at nearby Holborn, startling late commuters. Others added that his cries could be heard faintly above ground on Great Russell Street, especially near the locked museum gates after dark. Such accounts blurred the line between fact and fantasy, but they gave the story a life of its own, passed from one generation to the next. During this period, interest in the supernatural was on the rise. Television and radio regularly broadcast ghost stories, while books about haunted London became popular bestsellers. The British Museum ghost fit perfectly into this cultural moment. It combined the allure of ancient Egypt, already steeped in tales of curses and mummies, with the eerie atmosphere of the underground, a place already linked in the public imagination with secrecy and danger. Urban legends thrive on mystery, and the fact that the station was sealed to the public made the story even more enticing. Unlike the Tower of London or other haunted sites where visitors could see for themselves, the ghost station was forbidden ground. Its locked doors became symbols of hidden truth, suggesting that something was being concealed from the public. By the 1970s, ghost tours in London often included stops outside the British Museum, where guides would point toward the street above the sealed station and recount chilling tales of the phantom priest. Some even claimed that staff at the museum itself refused to stay late in the Egyptian galleries, fearing the ghost might follow them home. Whether or not these stories were exaggerated hardly mattered. They kept the legend alive, embedding it deeper into London's cultural identity. The British Museum ghost station had gone from a disused transport relic to one of the city's most famous supernatural tales, proving that myths sometimes outlast the very places they describe. By the late 20th century, the British Museum ghost station had stepped firmly into the realm of pop culture, becoming a recurring character in books, films, and television programs about London's supernatural side. Documentary makers in the 1980s and 1990s often included the story in their explorations of haunted Britain, using moody reenactments of shadowy priests wandering abandoned tunnels to bring the legend to life. Ghost hunters and paranormal researchers spoke of the site in hushed tones, describing it as one of the most tantalizing locked-away mysteries of the underground. Popular authors, too, wove the tale into their works. Fictional thrillers and horror novels sometimes set key scenes in the forgotten station, using it as the perfect backdrop for encounters with restless spirits. Even children's books and urban legend collections mentioned it, cementing the idea that the station was a place where history and myth intertwined. On television, the ghost station became a favorite subject of paranormal series. Late-night programs brought in psychics to sense the energy of the tunnels, while animated graphics illustrated the supposed path of the priest as he roamed from the Egyptian galleries of the museum down into the darkness below. Some shows interviewed underground staff, who admitted, often with nervous laughter, that they avoided the area whenever possible. These dramatizations only strengthened the legend, making it a household name even for those who had never heard the tale before. The fascination wasn't confined to the UK. International audiences were equally captivated, since few cities carry the same weight of history, myth, and modernity as London. For visitors, the British Museum ghost station represented something uniquely compelling, a story that tied the mysteries of ancient Egypt to the world's oldest underground railway system. Tourists might marvel at the Rosetta Stone by day, and by night whisper about the ghostly priest pacing in the sealed tunnels beneath their feet. The blending of archaeology, haunting, and the hidden city created an irresistible cocktail for storytellers. Even skeptics who dismissed the ghost as myth acknowledged that it had become a cultural phenomenon. By the turn of the millennium, the legend was as much a part of London lore as the ravens of the Tower or Jack the Ripper's shadowed alleys, securing the British Museum Ghost Station's place as one of the capital's most famous supernatural icons. With the arrival of the internet in the late 1990s and early 2000s, the legend of the British Museum Ghost Station entered a new chapter. Online forums, paranormal websites, and later social media gave the story a global platform, allowing ghost hunters, historians, and curious readers to share and expand the tale. Grainy photos of bricked-up passageways near Holborn or Tottenham Court Road were circulated as evidence of the hidden station. Amateur researchers pored over old underground maps, pointing out where the station once appeared, while others posted eerie audio clips supposedly recorded in the tunnels, featuring low chants or unexplained footsteps. The lack of access only fueled speculation because no member of the public could confirm what lay inside. Every claim carried a tantalizing possibility of truth. Urban explorers, a growing community fascinated with abandoned spaces, also turned their attention to the ghost station. Though direct entry was nearly impossible without official permission, the mystery of the sealed tunnels was irresistible. Explorers who ventured into neighboring sections of the underground sometimes described strange sensations, a drop in temperature, the feeling of being watched, or faint sounds from beyond bricked walls. Even though skeptics dismissed these experiences as tricks of acoustics and imagination, online audiences devoured them. Each account became part of a patchwork myth, spreading the idea that something otherworldly lingered in the closed platforms beneath the museum. As the digital age unfolded, YouTube channels and podcasts dedicated to haunted places ensured the story remained alive for new generations. Dramatic retellings with spooky music and animation introduced younger audiences to the ghostly Egyptian priest, while bloggers speculated about links between the Amun-Ra mummy and the vanished women of Holborn. The story thrived in this new medium because it required no proof, only imagination. Every photo of a locked door, every rumor of chanting, every unexplained draft became part of the lore. For those scrolling late at night, the thought of a cursed, sealed station beneath one of the world's greatest museums was irresistible. In the digital world, the British Museum Ghost Station became more than a forgotten place. It became a symbol of the unknown lurking beneath modern life, proof that even in the information age, mystery still had power. In recent decades, the British Museum Ghost Station has become a staple of London's thriving ghost tour culture. Although the station itself remains sealed and inaccessible, its legend is retold almost nightly by guides leading groups of curious tourists through the city's haunted streets. Standing outside the British Museum after dark, guides lower their voices and describe how the ghost of an Egyptian priest supposedly wanders the tunnels below, forever tied to the relics displayed in the galleries above. Visitors are told to listen carefully, for some claim that on quiet nights, faint chanting can be heard echoing beneath the pavement. Whether or not anyone hears anything, the effect is chilling, and for many tourists, the experience becomes one of the highlights of their visit to London. The station may no longer appear on maps, but in the world of ghost lore, it remains firmly on the route. Occasionally, there have been rare, tightly controlled tours of certain disused sections of the underground, though not specifically into the British Museum station itself. Still, enthusiasts often point to the bricked-off passages at Holborn or Tottenham Court Road as tantalizing hints of what lies beyond. These glimpses add fuel to the legend, keeping the sense of mystery alive. The inaccessibility of the station is in many ways its greatest strength. Because the public cannot explore it, the imagination is free to fill the darkness with whatever stories it chooses. Today, the legend is not only kept alive through walking tours, but also through local folklore events, Halloween specials, and media features that revisit London's most haunted locations. The ghost of the Egyptian priest has become almost as iconic as the ravens at the Tower or the Headless Horseman. Of legend, a figure woven into the city's supernatural identity. Even museum staff admit, with a smile or a shiver, that the Egyptian galleries have an atmosphere unlike any other part of the building. Whether this is due to the weight of history, the power of suggestion, or something more, no one can say for sure. But one thing is certain, the story of the British Museum Ghost Station is alive and well, haunting London's nights as vividly as ever. The story of the British Museum Ghost Station endures because it is more than just a tale of a closed underground stop. It is a reminder of how history and myth often intertwine in ways that outlive the facts. The station itself was a practical casualty of London's growing transport system, closed in 1933 simply because it sat too close to Holborn and Tottenham Court Road, yet once sealed, it took on a second life as a stage for folklore. The legend of the ghostly Egyptian priest, tied in the public imagination to the cursed mummy board of Amun-Ra, transformed it from a forgotten transport relic into one of London's most famous supernatural stories. Unlike other ghost tales, this one carries the weight of both archaeology and modernity. Ancient curses colliding with the rumble of 20th century trains. It speaks to something deeply human, the fear of disturbing the dead, the fascination with the unseen, and the uneasy sense that the past is never truly buried. Even today, nearly a century after its closure, the station remains alive in the imagination. Ghost tours, documentaries, podcasts, and books continue to retell the tale, ensuring new generations hear of the Egyptian priest said to haunt the tunnels. For believers, the ghost is a warning about the dangers of tampering with sacred relics. For skeptics, it is proof of how stories can grow in the gaps left by silence and secrecy. The station's sealed doors have become symbols of mystery themselves, representing the many layers of history hidden beneath London's streets. People may never be allowed inside again, but perhaps that is exactly what keeps the legend strong. The British Museum Ghost Station shows that a place does not need to be grand or even accessible to capture the imagination. A locked door and a good story can be enough to turn an ordinary space into a legend. And in a city as old and storied as London, where the past seeps into every corner, such legends are part of its lifeblood. Whether or not the Egyptian priest truly walks the tunnels, his story continues to echo, ensuring that the British Museum Ghost Station remains one of the most unforgettable chapters in the haunted history of the underground.